Good morning and welcome to the programme. It is Fabulous Friday, isn't it? It's not as nice as yesterday, but it is due to clear up later on today somewhat. Don't know if it's going to be suntan weather, but we will see. Hope you're going to have a great weekend, whatever you're doing this weekend. I know a lot of people won't be doing an awful lot, but whatever you're doing this weekend, let us know. We're going to have a bit of a really good mixture on the programme this morning, light and shade. A person texted me that they're not doing traffic reports in another, actually it was a thing from I think someplace in England, and one of the shows decided, why don't we do a home traffic report? So this morning, I want you to text me in, please, 083 3333 975. If Daddy is manoeuvring through the kitchen, going to the fridge, if there's something happening out the back, if there's something. So let's give a sort of a home traffic report. What's happening at home in terms of the traffic? Let's see if we can have a bit of fun with this today. 083 3333 975. You can call Audrey on 051 846 123. We also want you to keep texting in your hero and the name of the hero, a community hero, courtesy of SE2, our sponsor for this. As I said, it's not a competition. If you want to nominate a hero in the community, somebody that you believe has been doing great work within the community, please text us in, or you can contact us through the WLR-FM website. That's the other way of doing it there on that. This morning, we're going to do a musical theme. The headliners that we're going to be playing at All Together Now were Sinead O'Connor, for example, Iggy Pop, Jarvis Cocker, Groove Armada. So text us any songs that you want us played from that and we will play some of those. In a minute, you're going to hear an interview with Mark O'Cahazig on the Greens, the prospects of entering coalition with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. We're going to be talking to people in Stradbally. We're going to be talking to people in the Cahabrua estate down in Dungarvan. Mark Rainier from Waterford Distillery is going to be talking to us about the launch of the new inaugural whisky called Pilgrim Whisky, and we're going to be talking to a barber, Robbie Palmer from the Arch Barbers in Tramore, about haircuts for men and women. Nita Furlong's going to talk to us about Pieta House and fundraising from that, and in a minute we're going to talk to Gerard Kynan, General Secretary of PD Fora. That is the representative association for the Defence Forces. The situation, I was contacted yesterday by a number of people, and Mairead Landers spoke to me, Mairead Landers Barry. She is a wife of a soldier who is in the Lebanon, and effectively they have been told, or were due to finish up their stint, their service, in May, the first or second week in May. Now, I'll explain this in a few minutes regarding what the United Nations is saying and what the Irish government is saying or not saying. And some of the personnel, there's 300 personnel over there, a lot of them based around the Kilkenny barracks area, and with that a lot from the southeast. So if you're listening this morning, gentlemen and women, hello to you this morning in the Lebanon. Hope you're keeping safe, and you deserve our greatest of respect, because this is the reason we're doing this story, because I believe there's something that's just not right with this, and this has got to do possibly with the United Nations saying that members have to extend their tours of duty maybe until the middle of June or the end of June. We just don't know, because they're kind of saying, they're intimating, and I'll read out the statement in a little while from the government, they're intimating that it's got to do with something, the COVID crisis and people changing shifts and changing all that sort of stuff. So we'll come to that in a minute. So firstly, I spoke to Mairead Landers Barry from Lismore, whose husband is in the Lebanon, and I asked her first to tell us, when did he go on the current tour of duty?
So he went over to Lebanon in November to serve for 6 months originally, obviously, until this all happened. He was home for 3 weeks for his leave at the end of January, start of February. So we're living in Lismore. I have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old.
What's their name? What's their names?
Sean, Sophie and Monty.
Lovely. And he's with the 115th Infantry Battalion, is he?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
What does he do?
Private in the Irish Army.
Okay, and is he in it long? Is he in it long, Mairead?
He's in it 5 years, and it's his second time overseas. First time he went to Mali was only 2 days old.
And does he love? He loves the army, I'm sure.
He does, yeah, he does.
And loves the family even more. It's so difficult. It's so difficult, yeah.
Just we woke up this morning, we were like, thought we'd get good news. We weren't too sure it was good or bad, but with some sort of news even to kind of give us some sort of a date to go by, you know.
Yeah, I've spoken to quite a few women that are married to soldiers, male soldiers obviously, over the years, and it's a really difficult lifestyle, and it's a really difficult life because you have to just factor in the fact that somebody is going to be away for certain amounts of time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a hard one to be in, all right. Like, but I've obviously relied on my mother and father so much when he is away. But this time now it's just harder, obviously, because I don't even have them for help. Like, so it's myself and the 3 lads, and that's it. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh God, how are you managing?
Yeah, I'm grand. They're good, to be fair. I have a 9-year-old who acts like the father figure at the house at the moment, but they are good, to be fair to them. They're just kind of waiting now.
They're there now at the minute. Yeah. Listen, if you want to chat away to them, and tell me, they're supposed to be home, or you were supposed to know when they're coming home. What have you tell us?
Well, originally when he went over, he was originally supposed to be back on the 12th of May, so he was coming home in the first leaf block, and they were kind of told in the Lebanon yesterday that they'd be told today on their definite date, which was the 12th, and then they were told today, actually, we don't know a date, like, so they still don't know any date at all. And there is obviously families as well in Ireland waiting for their partners and boyfriends, girlfriends, wives and husbands to go over, and they have their bags ready to go, and they don't know as well what date they're going to be going. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that's very disconcerting, yeah. And there's no answers, you haven't heard any answers yet about why this decision has been put off?
Originally, they said that the Irish government had given the thumbs up to come home, but it's kind of more that the UN now are saying that they don't really want a changeover happening. But, like, I can't understand how ferries are leaving people in and strawberry pickers and stuff were left in. Like, it's hard to understand. You know what I mean?
It is very hard to understand, yeah. And it's upsetting as well, isn't it, Mairead?
Yeah, it's hard going now, I won't lie. Like, just especially when I'm off work as well, myself at home every day, all day, doing everything. So,
what do you normally do a bit of work with?
I work, I'm a supervisor in a creche.
God, so that's even more difficult, yeah. And I suppose, like as you say, the children are great, but it's claustrophobic in a way.
Yeah, they're very good, but just trying to do everything, I suppose, as well as a bit of homework that we're being sent home as well. Trying to do a bit of everything, and they're kids, they fight, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we'll get in touch with the department and with the Minister, Paul Kehoe, and see what the situation is. But effectively, it seems to be the UN kind of telling the Irish government and telling UNIFIL that we don't want changeovers happening in the current climate. That seems to be what's going on anyway. That's what they're being told anyway, Damien. So
yeah, but that could go on then for another couple of months, couldn't it?
It could do, but the 12th of May is Tuesday week. That was only 2 weeks away. So I can't understand how it can't be. It should take as long. How long more will it take till they know? Especially when there's people waiting to go over and cover them on leave. What way are they? How, I don't know. It's a hard one.
You miss him an awful lot.
Yeah, he's missed enough as it is with the baby. He was 2 days old the last time she went, and now she's 2 years. You know what I mean? So he's missed a good bit. It's hard, for them. Yeah. And there's only so much FaceTime, and they want to talk. You know what I mean?
Of course, they miss their daddy an awful lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mairead, listen, mind yourself.
Damien, thanks very much.
And thanks to Mairead for talking to me. That was Mairead talking to me yesterday afternoon. Gerard, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Gerard Guinan, General Secretary of PD Fora, that's the Permanent Defence Forces Representative Association, representing, I suppose, the interests of personnel serving in the Army, Naval Service, Air Corps, etc. Gerard, you heard what Mairead had to say. Firstly, your response to the annoyance, the anger, the understanding also, but that's a terrible situation, isn't it?
Listen, it was great. Mairead sounds like a very strong lady, and it's good to hear that she's bearing up well. In fairness to her, it is extreme circumstances, and I can fully appreciate the anxiety and stress that people are going through at the moment. It's very, very hard on the families. If you're overseas, you're among comrades, and you do your job and you get on with it. And but your thoughts are with your family at home. In terms of the people that are over there at the moment, I know they've got a good crew. You've got Lieutenant Colonel Bob Hurley there, and you've got John Kelleher, Sergeant Major, out there. And, if you're stuck in a tough spot, those are the people you want having your backs. So...
And there's no doubt about that, Jared. Nobody's questioning that whatsoever, okay?
Yeah.
The problem is the communication, okay? So, for example, I contacted Paul Kehoe's office yesterday afternoon. I got an email back, which was a briefing document, which you presume have seen. It's regarding the current situation, and effectively what it says that the Irish troops serving under the auspices of the United Nations, the UN is now saying that there will be no rotation of troops until the end of June. Is that correct? Now,
no,
there are certain exemptions.
There are. I suppose, look at, Damien, as late as last night, I was on the phone to Minister Kehoe. I have spoken with the Chief of Staff twice in the last number of weeks in relation to it. I mean, every other day I would speak with Lieutenant Colonel Tyke Murray inside in military CNA. It is a case of that everybody within the chain of command and within the department is actually trying their level best to get the earliest possible return date for these people. The problem is and it's understandable for the families, is the time lapse between actually getting a definitive date. I mean, what PD4 wants is we want our members overseas to be informed at the earliest possible opportunity when they're going to come home, and then given the space and time, the professionalism to allow them to contact their families and then, to talk them through it. Because, like I said, it's the families at home that really are the people who suffer.
Okay. And sorry for interrupting, Jared.
No, okay.
There's quite a few of them listening to this morning, because as we know, there's 300 personnel troops in Lebanon, effectively a lot of them from the southeast, based around the Kilkenny barracks, okay?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them listening to this morning, because I put it up on Facebook last night where we're going to be doing this, okay?
Okay.
So, can you tell me this morning, following your discussions with Minister Paul Kehoe, he said he's going to come on the programme with us on Monday morning, can you tell us, is the May dates, are those dates now gone?
I can't say that.
So you don't know?
No, nobody knows.
So are they still going ahead?
I honestly can't say. I mean, that really is a matter for the Department of Defence. All I can tell you is that we have made representations, over the past month since this public health crisis kicked in, to ascertain a date for members. And everybody is aware of it. I mean, I think the Chief of Staff is most acutely aware, and the Minister is acutely aware of the stress that families are facing. I mean...
not just families, the soldiers themselves as well.
Absolutely. The soldiers themselves worry about their families. I mean, that's their primary concern. Like I said, when you're overseas, you are amongst comrades. Yes, you do your job, but your primary worry will be your family at home, and that is that's very, very difficult for those members overseas, no doubt. But we all recognise that it's really the stress that is imposed upon the families.
Okay, let me ask you then, and on the Irish Defence Forces Facebook page, Akira from Kilkenny has sent us in a big long message about the stress that she's going through. Let me ask specifically, the Government Department of Defence Press Office sent me a briefing document, 2-page briefing document last night, and near the end of it, it says... the military authorities have confirmed that personnel deployed in UNIFIL have been fully briefed by their commanders on an ongoing basis in the mission area and the current situation and ongoing developments. My understanding is that they haven't been told or fully briefed. They're basically haven't been told anything else apart from to prepare for the 12th of May as the date that they will be leaving the Lebanon. So is that briefing document from the department incorrect?
I don't know. I haven't seen that document, to tell you the truth. But, I mean, what I can say to you is that, no more than ourselves, PD4 have issued information circulars on this. But if you don't have definitive information, there's no point in speculating as to what will actually happen.
But at the minute, they still think they're coming home on the 12th of May.
Well, they don't have a definitive date when they will definitely come home.
Well, that's the date that they were told, and they haven't been told any differently.
Well, I would imagine that within the coming days that they will get a briefing with a definitive date.
But again, as of now, Friday morning, you're telling me that you, as their representative, you don't know what that date is.
No, and I'm not happy about it. But
I understand,
but I do have to appreciate that efforts are being made through the United Nations. I believe that the force commander, the decision in terms of the rotation rests with New York. You've got multiple actors here, Damien. You've got the Secretary General of the United Nations in New York. You've got the force commander in Lebanon. You've got the host nation who, I believe I'm not too sure if their airport is closed or limited to traffic.
It's virtually closed, by Beirut Airport.
They have to be satisfied that, any troops that are coming into their country are safe as well, because they are amongst the indigenous population there. So there are multiple actors there, and it's extremely complicated. Troop movements are, they're a huge logistical challenge at the best of times, and then throw in a global pandemic on top of that. And you've got multiple nationalities out there in the Lebanon at the moment. I mean, for us, our primary concern is the health, safety and welfare of our members, their families, and make sure everybody comes home safe to their families. That's our primary concern. We want them to get a definitive date, as soon as possible. We don't want it leaked into the press. We want the members to be informed on the ground.
Yes.
And then afforded the dignity of actually allowing them to communicate that to their families.
I understand that, and you're 100% right in that, and I agree with that, and speculation is incorrect. The problem is when there is this, like the United Nations, it's coming from them, as you say. It's not the Irish government's fault. The Irish government wants to get them back. Paul Kehoe wants to get them back. You want to get them back. Mairead wants to get her husband back. Ciara wants to get her husband back.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
In that vacuum, in that information vacuum, speculation does arise, and there is a possibility that they won't be coming back until June.
The possibility, absolutely. I mean, when you look at the Secretary General's letter, it said the 30th. But I believe that every effort has been made to return Irish troops sooner than that, as soon as possible. We have returned troops. We've returned troops from Mali. We have returned troops from Kosovo. All these people, those missions have rotated people through in the past couple of weeks. And I think that every effort has been made to try and secure the early, rotation of personnel through the mission area. But you're dealing with, a bureaucracy there in terms of the United Nations.
Yes, you've said,
huge. And you're talking about 100,000 troops all over the world in numerous mission areas from 120 countries. It is extremely difficult to actually, try and bring your issues to the top of the pile there.
Yeah.
But
you're also like mental issues. I know soldiers are very trained strongly mentally, but like to be in Lebanon for 7 months and then still not knowing when you're coming back, maybe, like, this is just. I mean,
look, I think the not knowing. Look, I've served 4 times overseas in Lebanon. I've done 80th and 81st Battalion, 87th, 88. I always done extensions. I've done a year out there both times. But I had the benefit of actually knowing when I was going to come home. And it is extremely difficult. Troops out there before, Grapes of Wrath took place years ago, and I believe that the mission was actually delayed at that point in time. Soldiers are tough men and women, and they can bear up, but it's really, like I said, it's the hurt on the families, it's the stress on the families at home, and they're acutely aware of the circumstances that exist at home at the moment, and that is what gets in on top of them.
Would they finally, Gerard, would they have to self-isolate when they do come back?
Any
for another 2 weeks
that have returned so far have actually they've had to self-isolate for 2 weeks. Yeah. Can I just say, Damien, before I go, if you don't mind,
just before you do that, Joan just rang in to say her son left for a tour of Syria 3 weeks ago. How was that allowed to go ahead?
They were, I think their rotation had actually been planned, or it had been scheduled just shortly before the Secretary General issued that.
Okay. Finally, go ahead, George.
Can I just say that how immensely proud we are of our members?
Of course.
Our engineers, they sort of helped out, built places, for the hospitals, testing centres. Our naval service deployed ships. Our medics are currently engaged with the National Ambulance Service, and the cadets and the bandsmen engaged in contact tracing. We're immensely proud of the role being played by all our members across the world and here at home, during this public health crisis. They have given They're all to the national effort, and we're immensely proud of them.
Gerard, listen, I really appreciate you coming on this morning. Will you please keep in touch, and over the weekend we might talk to you Monday morning, because we want to follow this up. We're intent on following this up because a lot of people are in a lot of pain because of this. So
absolutely.
Listen, good luck over the weekend. We might talk to you Monday morning, okay?
Damien, thank you very much.
Not at all. Pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much. Gerard Guinan there, General Secretary of PD Fora. I suppose we're just going to say we stand firmly with the soldiers and their families on this, and hearing Mairead yesterday and her very difficult story, and the soldiers that are listening to this in the Lebanon. Hello to everybody from Ireland and other parts of the world if you're listening to this, because I know this is an issue that affects you, and it's, as Gerard says, it's the indecision, it's the not knowing is one of the worst things. So we'll see how things play out over the weekend. But if anybody has any contacts with politicians to put the pressure on, John Pratt has texted in to say he has been in touch with Alan Kelly, the Labour Party leader, to put the pressure on and to try and work something out on this. And if you have any contacts with politicians, I think please give them a shout today and ask them to raise this with the Minister of Defence, Paul Kehoe. He's aware of it as well. He does understand as well. And as you say, it's not his decision is kind of out of his hands. But the more pressure that's put on from the ground, the more chance we have potentially of a good outcome and a decision on this one way or the other. Stay with us. Now, a lot of people texting in support for Mairead and all the relatives of those soldiers that are over there and the soldiers themselves, people making some comparison. They can fly in strawberry pickers and can't get the soldiers home. It's not a fair comparison, to be honest, because you heard Gerard exactly what he had to say regarding the United Nations and regarding, like, the United Nations are doing it on the basis of trying to protect troops and protect when rotations happen and all those types of things. So they're giving specific reasons, but it's the indecision that's there on this. Another texter giving out about TSB Bank. They're now, from this week, there's no counter transactions, only cards at machines. This person says, I always only do counter transactions. Can people please text in, says this texter, to ask what is their view about this. Might get some reaction. Another texter asking about some shops still not doing the proper replenishing of facilities and cleaning facilities. Let us know what you think on that. Now, just before we came on air, I spoke with Mark O'Cahisick. He's the Green Party TD, regarding these 17 points that they have proposed, priorities to Fine Gael and to Fianna Fáil, regarding issues they want to discuss before they, I suppose, begin negotiations going into government. I asked Mark O'Cahisick first, how are things going with himself and his family?
We're all good, Damien. I think we're like everybody else in the country. The cabin fever is setting in, and I suppose we're worried about I'm worried about my mother and father, and our wider friendships. But we're all the same. We're doing very well considering the circumstances, and I don't think we have it the worst of some of the people out there.
What's their names? Let's say hello to them this morning.
Well, I've done it to Owen and Tomás. They're the three small men, and then Jim and Francis are my parents, and hopefully they'll be tuning in at home.
Mark, 17 Green Party policies that you set out, effectively demands for entry into Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil coalition. Can you just, without going through all 17 of them, can you give me a few of what they are, please, and why you have set it out like this?
I can, of course, Damien. Now, the first thing to say is it's not a policy initiative, or it's not our opening gambit for a programme for government. So what it is a response to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael's framework document that they issued last week. So there's a lot of things in here that I suppose would be in our manifesto. There's a lot of things not in here that would have been in our manifesto. But we weren't using it as an opportunity to reset out the manifesto. Our manifesto is still there. We campaigned on it. It's still there for anybody to read. What we were trying to do is respond to the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael's framework. And I suppose to set a baseline whereby if we're going to go into any sort of meaningful discussions with them, there's no point, for example, on emissions targets. There's no point walking into the room with them unless everybody has a clear idea. Look, in terms of emissions targets, the science says, the Joint Oireachtas Committee says, the Citizens' Assembly says we have to hit our 7% plus. Are we going to hit our 7% plus reductions? So really, it's not about trying to paint anybody in a corner. It's not about criticism. It's just to try and establish a baseline. If we're going to go into a programme for government talk with Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, here's the scope, here's the baseline. If we're not able to step up to these marks, well, it would be a waste of everybody's time, including the electorate, for us to step in, do 3 weeks of mashing around in a room and then to step back out again. It's better that we lay these out in the first place and say these are the preconditions. there will be a lot of stuff that's not in here that's very important to us. There's a lot of things in the programme or in the framework document that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael care for, but that will be for negotiations if we ever get to that point.
OK. A lot of people would have been very animated with your views on agriculture before the general election. There's nothing specifically in here regarding agriculture. I see point 11 as a development of a national land use plan. Some farmers, as we said before, critical of potentially Green Party policies regarding the national herd and other matters. That's not one of the priorities at the minute. Are you saying that will be something that may be part of the negotiations if and when they happen?
Our baseline on it, Damien, in terms of it, is the emissions target. Now, as you know, I'm married into a dairy farm, or at least that's my wife's people are from dairy farming. And I'm acutely conscious of the struggle, particularly beef farmers and sheep farmers at the minute. It's extremely hard for them to make ends meet. So what we have to do is we have to put the baseline of 7% year on year, 7% plus reduction in our emissions. And then we have to sit down and we have to make hard decisions, not just in agriculture, but all across society. So that's going to be how we generate our electricity. It's going to be the food we eat. It is going to be our land management. It's going to be our travel and transport. All of these things are going to have to be in there. And I certainly don't want to pick one sector in particular and make them the whipping boy for the massive changes that are in front of us. I have no interest in doing that. Farmers, for sure, are going to have to play their part. We know that there's a huge role for farmers in terms of carbon sequestration through the use of our land. We know that land management and biodiversity, farmers are absolutely essential in how we manage our land. And nobody knows the Irish landscape better than Irish farmers. So there's no point at all trying to pick one sector and say that these are the people that are responsible. Really, as we make this kind of massive societal change, everybody's going to have to pull their weight. Everybody's going to have to be part of the changes that are in front of us. OK. A lot of people would have criticised the Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil document. The initial document has been very aspirational. The same could be said about these 17 priorities. Extremely aspirational and not costed in any way. Yes, that's true. And I suppose we kept our response in line with the initial framework. And I can understand where Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are coming from. We would have done 2 weeks of intensive talks at the start of the process before COVID-19 really took off. We met with all parties. We met with Sinn Féin first, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and we met with the Social Democrats. And we also spoke to the other parties. But at the moment, the economic reality is so completely changed that until the economy comes out of free fall, there's no point at all in me attaching a 50 million price tag here or 100 million there. Our first and most important thing, and I mean there's health workers, there's frontline workers of all shapes and forms who are going out and putting themselves in harm's way today.
Yeah, okay.
Our first task is to manage the health crisis, and then really we're going to have to assess the economic reality and look realistically at the things that can be achieved against that backdrop.
We'll come to that in a second. Just on the point you made there regarding being in talks with opposition parties, you were initially involved in detailed policy talks. The Green Party abandoned that process effectively when the extent of the COVID-19 crisis became apparent. So if COVID hadn't happened, you'd still be talking to Sinn Féin. Is that correct?
Well, we had done 2 weeks of very intensive talks, exploratory.
And there was divisions within the Green Party too regarding the way forward when they were going on.
No, there wasn't. There was huge unity, and actually those 2 weeks of talks were very, very useful. But what happened at the end of the 2 week talk is the scale. Actually, we had a briefing from Professor Sam McConkey, and I mean that really focused our minds. And we realised that the only thing that people should be talking about and dealing about at that point in time was the unfolding health crisis. And we suspended talks at that time because, quite honestly, and I've said this before, I didn't want to be talking about solar panels when the ICUs were being absolutely swamped with people who were sick. I didn't think that was going to be appropriate. So at that time, we called for a national unity government. We thought that was time to put the green jersey on. That was time for everybody to pull together and make sure that anything that needed to be done in order to tackle the health crisis was done.
So you disagree with...
Nobody joined those thoughts.
You disagree with Harry McGee's analysis in the Irish Times today, the political correspondent, who says that the Green Party TDs were roughly divided into groups of four. One around Eamon Ryan, very enthusiastic. Others reluctant to get involved in certain arrangements. Others then undecided, maybe yourself, I'm not sure. Are you saying that the Green Party is fully united now?
No, we have a spectrum of opinion, and to be quite honest, we're worried about going in with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. We're not sure that they share our values. We have worries. Everybody has a memory of the last time that the Greens were in government and what happened subsequent to that. And we have seen historically in Irish coalitions that it is the junior partner who suffers. The famous Dick Spring quote where they get 90% of the blame. So we're worried. Spectrum opinion. Why
are you thinking about going into government then when you anticipate potentially, and this ties in with the fact that the money will not be there, that you are going to be annihilated in the next general election?
Well, anybody who knows me, Damien, knows that I'm not a career politician. There's only one reason I'm going up to Leinster House 3 days of the week away from my family, and that's to get things done. The only reason I got involved in politics in the first place is because of my children and because of the unfolding crisis that we know is taking place in terms of climate breakdown and biodiversity loss. This is the only reason I'm involved in this at all. I'm there to get things done. And I'm there to get things done for the people of Waterford as well. Massive things like University Hospital Waterford, we know about the North Quays project, WIT. And so what I want to do is, for however long this government lasts, I want to do absolutely everything that I can on behalf of my electorate, both nationally and in Waterford. And at the end of that time frame, the people will have an option again to vote on whether they liked what I did or not. And if they choose not to re-elect me, that is absolutely fine. That's democracy. But I'm only there for one reason, Damien. I'm there to get things done.
So are you saying this morning, Marco Cossack, that you, at present, will be voting to go into government with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael?
No, I certainly am not. I'm waiting for a written response to our 17 questions.
You seem to be implying that, no?
Up to the mark of our minimum ambitions. Then after that, there'll be will have to be negotiations on a programme for government. And actually, at the end of the day, Damien, the way our party is structured, the decision won't be mine. The decision will actually be of Green Party membership, and any agreed programme for government has to be put in front of the Green Party membership and has to get a 2/3 majority of our membership. So,
and you'll have to do that remotely, obviously.
I think if we get it, at the moment we have to figure out, and I think Fianna Fáil are in the same position whereby are we going to do it as a postal vote or are we going to do it remotely? It's a headache that all of the parties are going to have in approving a programme for government. But at this point, I was very much behind sending this response, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, in fairness to them, and I suppose sometimes as an opposition party person, it's difficult to acknowledge. It must have been so difficult for lifelong Fianna Fáilers and lifelong Fine Gaelers to put those differences aside and to come up with a joint framework document. So it deserves our respect. It deserves our response. We're going to wait to hear back from them. And if they can step up to the scale of our ambition, we'll sit down at a table with them, we'll talk, and at the end of that process, all parties will have to put a programme for government before their membership.
And the scale of the ambition is dependent and only reliant on the amount of money you have available. Pascal Donoghue said yesterday that the budgets will have to be rebalanced. That's coded language for saying there will be, in my opinion, severe austerity measures coming in place for the next 4 years to pay for all of this. Somebody has to pay for this.
Yeah, and there's a range of issues there, Damien. So it depends on whether you go into your austerity cuts model, which is what you're talking about, or if you decide to go another way and begin to invest in infrastructure to reboot your economy, which is the way that we'd be pushing for. And I think is how the European Union is beginning to push as well. I think there's a strong possibility of any sort of re-stimulus package that happens after this to be based around the Green New Deal. So I'll return to our
Sorry, Mark, just very specifically on that. Economics then comes down to the amount of money you have to spend and your ability to get loans. We're borrowing phenomenal amounts of money at present to pay for this COVID crisis. You're saying we're going to borrow even more to pay for the investments that you were looking for?
Well, there has to be a stimulus package to get out of it, and we're not the only economy in Europe. In fact, we're not the only economy worldwide who's borrowing heavily at the moment. We've seen economies right around the Western world and right around the globe are in free fall at the moment, are in shutdown. So we've seen statements from the Italian Prime Minister, the Spanish Prime Minister, France is in the same boat, where they are all borrowing very heavily. This comes into the sphere of my colleague Grace O'Sullivan at this point. You're beginning to talk about European politics and whether people in the stronger European countries are going to step up to the mark in terms of issuing corona bonds or what the stimulus package is going to be.
But it comes down to you.
But there is a conflict. There's a conflict in the framework document that was issued to us, because the framework document that issued from Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, said that there was going to be no income tax raises. It said there was going to be no cuts in social welfare. And it said that we were going to remain within EU fiscal rules for borrowing. And actually, one of our questions is asking for specific detail on how those three things, because those three things don't seem to match up to us. So we are asking a specific question about how we do fund our ongoing government. But Damien, if I can return to some of the points that we've asked, we tried very hard not to put in things that are going to involve a huge outlay for the exchequer. So, for example, in our transport budget, we haven't asked for an enhanced transport budget. We've asked for a different way to spend it. Similarly, for drawing up a land use plan. A land use plan is something that can have huge effects in terms of biodiversity and huge effects in terms of carbon sequestration, but isn't expensive to put together.
I understand that.
Trying to be realistic.
And you're trying to be imaginative, I understand that, and yet a lot of these investments will cost a lot of money. They haven't even been fully costed yet. I know I heard Green Party leader Eamon Ryan talking this morning about bicycle lanes and things like that, and the hundreds of millions that may have to be spent. So the costings is for another day. Can I ask you, are you happy with your Green Party leader when he stands up in the Dáil and talks about people growing salads from their window boxes?
Eamon didn't have his best day in terms of the speech that day. And what we've seen since is that the content of his speech is actually was very good and very on point. I mean, what we were driving at is that in a time of crisis like this, we all need to mind ourselves. We need to mind our mental health. And you need to feel that you're doing something. And that you're doing something kind of meaningful. We're all trapped within the four walls or the four hedges. And you need to feel that kind of sense of agency. So what he was saying is, look, mind your mental health. Get out. Start doing your activities. But Eamon himself would acknowledge that wasn't his finest speech in the Dáil.
And
however, yes?
Finally, sorry, Mark O'Cosig, we're running out of time. In terms of Seamus Brennan's famous phrase, and it was repeated by Malcolm Byrne of Fianna Fáil last night, you're playing hurling with the senior boys now. What do you have to say to that? Do you still have this feeling? Do you think other parties still have this feeling that the Greens are only Mickey Mouse politicians?
Well, I tell you, I played junior hurling and senior hurling during my career, and I can tell you which one of them was physically more dangerous, Damien. I think you've had some experience in the different divisions yourself. Look, if I made a decision to sit on my hands because I didn't have 10 years of Dáil experience behind me, I'd still have to come home and look my kids in the eye. I'm not a person for sitting on the sidelines and cribbing. I want to get involved. If we are a naive party, we're a very capable party. When I look around at parliamentary party meetings, I see some incredible individuals there, people who are very passionate, they're committed, they're intelligent, they're there for the right reasons. And I tell you, I prefer to throw myself into a senior hurling match and win, lose or draw rather than sit on the sidelines and give out.
Mark O'Cosig, Waterford Green Party TD, thank you very much for joining us. Stay safe to you and your family.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Now, you know our text number 083 333 975, text or WhatsApp, or you can call Audrey on 051 846 123. Olivia just called Audrey and said she's listening to Mark O'Cosig. He is comparing Ireland to large countries like Spain and Germany. Where does he think we're going to get the money for all the ideas he has? We're in the middle of a pandemic, huge amounts of people on welfare, and lots of others not contributing to the economy at the minute. People from outside the country as well. Happy 12th birthday to Sir Shafizi, Mount Pleasant. Lots of love from Nana. Caroline was on John Street on her way to work this morning when two Gardaí came out of a shop with 2 cups of coffees. One of them gave a cup of coffee to the homeless man on the street. She thought it was a lovely gesture. Could you please ask Damien to say a big hello to all the parents and wonderful babies at Busy Kids Creche in Tramore from Sinead. We miss all our children so much. A lady, Mary, phoned in. She's over 70. She's with TSB. She's no bank card, never has, always uses cash, has no internet to do online banking. If TSB are ceasing counter transaction, she'll need to go and take all her money out. Now, there's a very simple story about how people are going to be affected by these decisions that are made by the banks. Thanks to care and repair team Martin and Connor, who help a vulnerable person in Ballybricken in the last 2 days. A great service. A friend of mine, John, sent me a text last night about a wallet he lost up around the Ardkeen, the Aldi at Ardkeen on Tuesday. If anybody's found it, please hand it in or let us know, because there's some personal items in it. Another texter, I'm sick of the negative narrative around propping up Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. I voted Green. I feel the Greens need to go into coalition to prop up the environment, health and housing. If that has to be done with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, so be it. The planet can't wait for them to sit on the ditch giving out. That is from Michael. Happy birthday to Michelle, 40 today. Her dad Michael, who's 70. Her two cousins Philip and Aoife from the Myler family, Morrison's Avenue. Thank you so much. Love the show. Having a great day. Have a great day. Another person saying, please keep the Greens out or we'll all be going round on bikes. Another texter saying that, what about the suckler herd? As you heard, we did a little bit about farming there. I went to the TSB, the permanent TSB, says Robert, on Wednesday. While I was in the queue, I was told by one of the employees there's no desk service anymore. I think it's ridiculous. My eyes are not the best, and if you're not fast enough, those machines beep at you. Larry says if the Green Party goes into coalition with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, they'll be wiped out at the next general election. That's what happened the last time. Another person says, ask Mark what he thinks of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, excluding Sinn Féin, says this texter. I voted Mark 1, Sinn Féin 2 in order to get rid of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Another person says, I'm terrified of the Greens and they're going to cause a lot of stress. And quite a few people texting in. Well done to Mairead for speaking out. So wrong to treat the men and women of the Defence Forces in that way. Another text from a woman whose husband is also on duty over there. Damien, disappointed that PD4, it didn't mention the roles being played overseas by the Navy and Air Corps. He did mention all the different forces, and this person says I completely support the Mairead, and the needs to be a definition of the dates. Oh sorry, that's from Councillor Eddie Mulligan in from that. Stay with us, we're going to be talking to a woman who wrote directly to Tony Holohan next. Now Anne, good morning, how's it going?
Hello Damien, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, I'm good. Anne Nevin, it's good to talk to you. How are they all in Stradbally?
Oh, so they're all great now. Why wouldn't we be on a fine day like today?
Is the sun out? It is?
Yeah, it's lovely, yeah.
Great.
Here now.
You wrote a lovely letter, a 5-point letter to Dr. Tony Holohan, who is the Chief Health Officer, and again a bit of a tongue-in-cheek in a way. We had a chat with you before about something similar regarding writing to Leo, but you had 5 main points: working from home, advising regarding your SAA, your spreading arse area, anger management,
right.
Panic buying, Clonakilty black pudding sausages are gone, and housework. One of the main things, I suppose, is that how would Tony Holohan advise you to maintain social distance from the kettle to the fridge? You're finding it extremely difficult, are you?
Well, I hope you can come up with something anyway. It's difficult enough now. But sure, we're getting there now. We're getting there.
Are you doing a lot of are you doing a lot of picking, as they say? Do you find it's very hard, huh?
It is, because you're jumping up, making a cup of coffee, and biscuit goes with that and whatever.
And have you found any way to get around that? Maybe put the biscuits, hide them away, or lock them in a cupboard or anything like that? No.
After the stock is getting low now, I'll have to be off to the village shop in Stradbally there for a stock up.
And do you find yourself getting a little bit less mobile?
No, I get out for a walk every evening. I go walking with my friend and Darcy. We bring our dogs for a walk. So around Ballyvooney there, you know. So it's get out and about that way. And at least we're living in a great area.
Yeah.
Washford, you know.
As you say, you took the official advice. You didn't do panic buying, but one of your main stable diets is Clonakilty black pudding sausages.
That's right, yeah.
What did you say to Tony?
Oh, I said, Tony, I missed them wicked. And I asked him, would he contact Clonakilty for me and say he wanted these sausages for a medical emergency. I can't find them anywhere. So if there's anyone listening in with a pack, I'll trade them for a pack of toilet rolls.
A barter system. And a medical emergency now, that'd be a hard one to describe when it comes to black pudding sausages, wouldn't it?
Well, no, indeed it would, I suppose. Honest to God, I'm telling you. Sure, I just wrote that letter out just for the crack, you know.
I know, yeah.
A bit of light happens in these times, as the fella said. Serious times.
And what about the housework? What about the cobwebs? Is there any cobweb stuff still left in the house?
Oh, God. Sure, it's like this now. I don't look up these days. So if I don't look up, I don't see. I'm not getting much of that done now. But anyway, I get around to that as well. So, doing a bit of work from home as well. So.
And what about anger management? You have to keep the anger down. You used to have a good row every Friday night in Whelan's pub playing cards. But how are the withdrawal symptoms going?
They're not going great now. You know, you'd look forward to having the row now during the cards, really. You know, sure, that's just in jest, you know. But yeah, we play every Friday night in Whelan, so we really miss that now. Things like that, you know.
And how's Seamus getting on?
Seamus is all right now, but he won't be let in to watch the Late Late again. Seamus is the dog now. So he spent all night. The last night the Late Late was on, he was farting all night in the kitchen, so he was banished outside. We'll have to put manners on him.
Has Tony Holohan Has Tony Holohan has he written back to you yet? No?
Not at all. I know I didn't send that to him, no. You can send it on for me.
Oh, we will.
Hands on the sausages now.
We might even put it up on the website. Listen, Anne Nevin in Stradbally, mind yourself and take care of Seamus. Go easy on Seamus now tonight when you're watching the Late Late, will you?
Oh, jeez, I will. Yeah, I will, surely. All right, listen, Damien, thank you very much.
God bless her.
Say hello to a couple of people.
Please do.
Aoife Connors is listening out in Australia, so hi, Aoife. And my family in Roscommon, I think, are listening in, and sister in Dublin, so, and everyone in Stradbally here as well. All right.
Trevor has just texted in, there's Clonakilty sausages in Super Value, the old Super Quinn, the best sausages around. Now, I don't know if they're the black pudding one, so I'll have to check that out, okay?
Oh, grand. Listen, thanks a million.
See you, Anne. God bless. Take it easy.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you.
Bye.